So here we are in a more unique situation for me, which is doing voiceovers after the fact of recording. The reason for this being I totally forgot the mics for this little kind of outing, which is unfortunate because me and my buddy Max, me and my client Max, we went out to a pretty cool location in the Grand Rapids area called the Other Body Shop, and I will say it was a pretty fun place. The equipment selection was really nice, a really good environment. The lighting, as you will find out, is really great for filming. So it was really cool to set up the tripod, throw the camera on it, and it was honestly really nice just to kind of chat with Max and kind of do our stuff, opposed to maybe trying to spice it up for the camera, just kind of here to lift, do the lifty thingies and all that fun stuff. So to kind of go over what we started with, and I'll chat a little bit, then we'll just kind of hit a little montage and I'll chat a little bit, vice versa, and talk about random stuff as these lifts are happening. We're doing some lateral raises, cable lateral delta kind of focused raises, and just got some tips and tricks I'll try to drop for each lift as we go. This one specifically lightweight, obviously like train heavy as heavy as you can, given it's a lateral delt raise. I mean, you can only do so much, but actually make it a point to try to feel the lateral delt. I feel like for a lot of people, it's something I used to do, which is just like a crap ton of momentum, when in actuality, what you want to try to focus on is just strictly using the muscle without any kind of leverage, without any kind of real back and forth moving, because that's how you get the most motor unit recruitment, essentially. That's how you get the most constant stimulus, by just putting yourself in a situation where you're not relying on outside factors that can change from lift to lift. Because the amount of swing you put into a motion can vary thing to thing. And now, mind you, am I using a little bit of momentum here? Yes, but it's not like crazy. Whenever I use dumbbells, it gets a bit nuts because I really get a lot of trap involvement. I typically feel it the next day. But that aside, I think that's enough yapping to go into a little bit of a montage, and I'll kind of pick it up at the next exercise, whatever I end up doing. And we're voicing over again already for what I will call one of the more anticlimactic little moments of this whole lift, which is trying out this kind of plate-loaded pullover machine. Now, initially, this seemed really epic. Pullover machines are like one of those, I would say, like, mythical piece of equipment. You see Dorian Yates use them once, and then you're kind of hoping you stumble upon one in a gym one day. And we happened to stumble upon one, and it was okay. The longer I kind of exist and use these machines, it's really hard to find one that I actually like. Why exactly? Mainly at this point, it's the fact of how heavy I have to go when working my lats, the weight in which I need to kind of do for lat pullovers. Now, mind you, Max here, he's having a great time, he's nailing the sucker. I'm a little bit of a lighter dude, but I can move like the same amount, if not a little bit more weight than him. So the big thing there is that it is just a real pain in the butt, and you will see me like actively struggle a lot with this movement, and yeah, it kind of sucked butt. But on the upside, we live and we learn, and hey, my abs got a phenomenal workout during this whole ordeal, so I'm really happy. It was a more or less shorter endeavor. So after we get done with the lat pullover attempt, we move into a kind of chest press. I think this was one of those like piana things, and I gotta say, the hype that this brand gets, I think, is kind of well worth it. And yeah, I think the hype is appropriate. Threw 3 plates on there and was able to press this pretty well. Honestly, I can't remember if I was kind of flubbing up or ego lifting or how it felt. It felt pretty solid. I don't think the rep count was like high by any means, but we were moving stuff and pushing weight, and we could appreciate that regardless. So main chest presses, I don't know how much one can say about it, and then keep a nice elbow flare. Make sure that the alignment of your arm in relation to your chest is one that allows for a smooth, nice pathway. Don't get the triceps too terribly involved, and really just try to make it a point to actually contract the chest fibers, all that fun stuff. Alrighty, montage time, let's hit it. Alrighty, and now we on to plate-loaded preacher curls. Yeah, a really solid movement in my opinion. One of my favorite ones, and I really, both me and Max really enjoyed the lighting that we had in this specific location, just because things were really, really popping. As far as just how the angles and the shadows and the lights, it was really good. But machine preacher curls, is there a real like big tip or trick? Other than to like lock in your shoulders and make sure that's only the biceps doing the biceptual things, we really don't want to make this a full body movement. Whenever I do this kind of thing, whenever I do a standing variation of this with like dumbbells, I use a lot of bodily momentum, I found out. And admittedly, I've had to kind of self-nerf myself in a sense, because I was able to like single arm preacher curl like the 45s for a little, which is awesome, except it wasn't a true bicep only kind of deal. So what did I have to do? Give my ego a little slap in the face and kind of tone it down a little bit. But with that, as long as you're training hard, if you find yourself, also random kind of deal here, if you find yourself doing kind of only like standing variations, I highly recommend you do more, like at least add in some kind of isolatory bicep movement such as this one. You're just going to find hopefully a better stimulus and just get some better growth through those means. So from there, didn't mean to stop at the frickin' cake shop. Ayo. Yeah, I totally made this comment in person though, because that's just how the gym bros end up working. But yeah, next was a standing chest supported like row machine that could be a variation, whether it be a T-bar or a lat bias row. You can kind of switch the handles and like they swivel, so you can kind of make them more flared elbows or bring them in a little bit closer. And yeah, this one was really entertaining because you could also make it more of a unilateral thing or two. I chose to do more unilateral, kind of let the weight shift with each arm appropriately, just because I've been trying to work on imbalances, and when I can find a row machine that allows for kind of the individual moving of like the left and the right side, I personally really enjoy that. And yeah, this was an amazing machine. Personally, I do prefer kind of those seated variations, just for the sake that you don't have to like keel over, you're not like bending over reaching, you can kind of properly set yourself up and you can go. And it allows for a little kind of more back specific stuff, because you can't like lightly stand up and all this other stuff. But this was a very fun machine nonetheless. All right, resume the montage. Alrighty, now we went from biceptual to triceptual, and yeah, a simple enough movement, just kind of a long rope, pull, extension, pull down, whatever you want to refer to it as. I'm finding out there's not much of like a semantic story with that, as there is just my personal preference, so take with that as you will. And whenever I'm targeting the kind of inner portion of the tricep, I refer to them as extensions, just for the sake of organization within my brain. But these can easily be referred to as pushdowns or whatever. I mean, the execution, I think, evidently has the role to play in it too. But once again, if you have not done these, if you don't really do these for your triceps, I highly recommend you do them, for the sake that they are just incredibly, like, the tension that is put upon them, that's not really a word, or a proper way to put words together in this case. It's wonderful. It is a sincerely baller exercise. If I had to choose only one kind of tricep exercise for the remainder of my lifting career, it would be just kind of an extension done with a long rope. You can slightly vary how you end up going about kind of the whole pulling down thingy to kind of vary the different parts. And even with that, I think as a whole, the general extension long rope thing does a good enough job at targeting the parts you need it to. And along with that, I prefer whenever doing a tricep specific exercise to mostly kind of target the inner portion of the head, the portion of the tricep that's kind of going to be closer to your torso, because whenever you do a pressing kind of motion, we work that kind of outer part of the tricep a fair bit. So, share the love, share all that good stuff, and yeah, hit your triceps hard, gosh darn it. Now on to what I can only describe as a pretty fun chest fly. Yeah, these lying down variations, there's only one other one of these I've ever tried, and that was at Venice. That was at Gold's Gym out in Venice Beach in California. And that was an interesting experience if you want to go watch that video. I think it's like Trip to California Part 1, one of my personal favorite vids on the channel. But that aside, yeah, I do prefer your typical pec decks. I obviously, gravity's working with you, but these long handlebars and the wriggly nature of it is just a bit, I wouldn't say convenient, but it's a bit annoying, more or less. So, pec deck still wins as far as the nice factor for me. But with that, we're moving on now to our kind of lat pull downs. And okay, where some of these machines have been kind of a little bit of a miss, a little silly in my opinion. This lat pull down is magnificent. It is perfect. It is wonderful because it forces you to be incredibly upright the entire time through. And for a lot of people, lat pull downs tend to turn into what I can describe as like a weird kind of seated upper back row where people use a lot of momentum and lean back in order to move the weights, but they don't move the weights utilizing the kind of lower portion of the lats that actually we're trying to hit whilst doing this. So the act of having a very, I would say, the movement, your arms stay to your side, they're not going forward, they're not going back, they're not traveling in any other types of planes, as I think they would say in a more scientific kind of manner. They are just strictly very parallel or perpendicular with the torso, whatever word it is, and just moving incredibly nicely. And I appreciate this machine for that. So I think after this, there we are. Some silly little curls for the sake of the lighting being awesome and rad. And with that, as far as I can remember, we are going into a pose down. And that's the video. So, I appreciate y'all for watching this kind of before Christmas kind of fun thing that me and Max decided to drive out and do. I wish we could have been mic'd up. Would have been more of a kind of nicer, holier, not holier, but heartier kind of video. So, yep, enjoy us, doing this whole ordeal for the kicks and giggles. And then off to the posing room we go, which is probably the best part of the trip.